All right, guys, the next one we're gonna talk about is what happens if you're weaving in and out. Like for instance, if you're running and your feet are really crossing over like this, you're like, oh, and your arms are really going out to the sides. We call this weaving. Very common. Right? A lot of different things can cause this. Weakness in the hips can cause it. So a lot of times it's actually overstriding. Many times it's also just, hey, you just kind of do it, and right, that's the way you've been the way you've ran for a while, and we have to change the way you're running, and that's a skill. It's a lot of, right, that's the neural system of learning how to walk. Right? Learning how to run is the same exact thing as learning how to walk. When you first learn to walk, the CrossFit gym next door to me, the owner, their son's name's Danny. He just learned to walk, and it's funny watching him because he's holding on to things, and now he's pretty good right now, but in the beginning it was a trial and error process for him. Same thing with running. So one cue that I want to focus on, not really a cue, but more of when you're running, especially on the road, find that white line. We call this the white line cue. Find that white line, have one foot on, and don't let the other foot cross over, right? If you try and straddle it, what tends to happen is now you start waddling and it's just too wide. So think, hey, have one foot on that white line, have one foot off, and run that way. There's probably a couple things we have to also address, like overstriding and some other things, but if you're having that crossing over where one foot's really crossing over this way, this is a cue I give most runners and say, hey, really a cue, but also, yes, you can think about, hey, don't cross over. Actually have that white line. There's some tape on the rubber mats here. You can have one foot on, one foot off the whole time you're running. You can actually see it, or you can just think, hey, there's a white line here. Don't let my feet cross over, right? There's an imaginary line in front of you. Don't cross over that line. I love it. If you can do this on the road, go for it. I understand you might be on a trail or it might not be safe. First of all, be safe doing this. But great cue is, hey, the white line cue. One thing to keep in mind too is if you have tightness in your hips, what might happen is I can't get my hip behind me when I'm running, so I don't have this hip extension. My pelvis will actually do this. If I can't get this leg behind me, my pelvis will go, oh, I can help you with that, and it'll actually rotate. Your pelvis will shift, and it will allow you it'll seem like your leg's getting behind you, but what's actually happening is we're here, I'm shifting as I'm pushing off, and now all of a sudden, my pelvis is now twisted this way, and I'm gonna cross over. So if you are having this, the white line cue is great, but we probably have to fix that tightness in your hips because of all the sitting down that you do. But guys, this has been the white line cue, and why hip tightness is a big cause of being a weaver. A lot of other reasons. White line cue, I love it. Find that white line and mobilize those hips.